Ohayou gozaimasu. Japanese, good afternoon. Last week at the Buddhist temple at a Market Street, the seminar there, last Wednesday, projected theme was the Four Noble Truths. So I saw that I could augment that theme. And for that, I brought this makimono, that's this scroll. It's very, very old. It's a Zen scroll. And that's what I'm going to talk about. The subject in it appears to be a deer. In Japanese, it's shika. All the deer in Asia are shika. And I met them when I was over there. They bark. They walk around and they bark. So that's who's there. As far as the kind of painting, ink painting, we could simply call it, all paintings in Asia are done horizontal due to the brush, the barrel, holds the ink. And so there is a whole body of knowledge and tradition that comes with this painting from China. And the different strokes and the different angles are all named, as well as the artist who instituted that or began that. Something like any of you who do Tai Chi is very similar to Tai Chi in the poetic names of the different motions, grab the tail of the tiger and like that. And so that's very much a part of that. In this particular one, this kind of painting with the ink like this, moroga, meaning apparition painting, and it's a very, very Zen, because here you have ostensibly an object, that's confronted by empty space. This empty space is the ground of being, and the transparency of the image here means to see through to the ground of being before the lineaments of being have come about. So entirely the figure of the deer is that, with nothing else around it. And the horns, the antlers here, however, are painted with the tip of the brush, like you would in calligraphy. And of the various names of the way, the angles you do the brush, in this one is chunkem, which means point to center, which is exactly the point of what is being said here in this painting. All these Zen paintings are didactic. They all have teachings to them, and one of the teachings is the body of knowledge that the artist has, that he's inherited and employs here. So that's very much a part of it. To tend to the subject here named Buddha, Buddhism, Buddha Dharma, and so forth, to put it succinctly, there are two. We'll say there are two Buddhas. The original Buddha, who was actually Gautama Buddha, did not found any religion. That was not in the picture at the time. That he's a graduate of the Hindu school of philosophy, the Sankhya. The Sankhya, as a name, means enumeration. And it's one of several Hindu philosophical schools at the time. Most all of them are atheists. And all of them are focused on a particular question of pursuit, and that is, what is suffering? What are the ramifications of suffering in existence? These Hindu schools were contemporaneous with those in Greece. Same old. Eventually, these philosophical schools ran out. Their pursuits were exhausted, I'd say. They were exhausted in both places. Religion comes after that. Religion comes after the exhaustion of these ardent philosophical inquiries. And so when I say two Buddhas, the first one, Gautama, is a graduate student of philosophy. And actually at the time in that school, he would be Maha. The name Buddha not come yet, so he's Mahanatma. And so forth. After this had dissipated, I'll try to say, then the Universalists stepped into that vacuum and began to create the religion, Mahayana. And this becomes now a cosmic Buddha who generates a host of bodhisattvas and dialectics and so forth, and becomes huge, 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 huge. So all this can be considered transcendental and religion. with all of this, there were some other people, one way or another, feel that or saw that they inherited something from the first one through, in China called Cham, or meditation, in Japan, Zen. So that these Zen people look back to the beginning. They look back to what is the original, what is the real realization there. So that's what's involved in this, is realization. And for the Zen to attain this realization, this enlightenment, was a direct insight, an intuitive insight. And that was the methods also for the painting, because the Zen painters had inherited from the Chinese Taoists as a way of self-realization. Painting as a way of self-realization. So that's what was all involved in this. So that's the ground for this. So to put it simply, at this point, and what it has to do with this, looking at, of course, the knowledge that's being sought, is about suffering. It's like that. And to know that the Buddha, Gautama, had said, I followed, the path that others before me have walked, and I found something they overlooked. And so with that, then he has an announcement. He's going to enunciate. Now, there were no monks. He's not a monk. The name is bhikshus. Bhikshus is a verb, to share. In other words, they were shareholders. So he gathered the other shareholders around him to enunciate what his findings were. And where that took place is in Deer Park. That's what this is. And what he announced to the shareholders, was these four noble truths. They're called noble truths, noble Arya, because you can rely on it. And truth means reality, that it's enduring. It's enduring. So that's the basis for that. And his way of enunciating this is also, this is the truth of suffering. This is the truth of its cause. This is the truth of its cessation. And this is the truth of the way to end suffering. That is the four truths, and that is what is on the horns. That's what's being enumerated there succinctly there. This is standing at attention, taking this in, this being, this ephemeral shika there. And the other one is the explications. The other horn are the explications. The explications is, this is suffering, and it's oppressive. This is suffering, and it incurs more suffering. And this is the cessation of suffering. The nature can attain it. And there is the way to end suffering, and the nature can practice it. So that was the first of the explications. The second of the explications is, this is suffering. You should understand it. The cause of suffering, you should cut it off. The cessation of suffering, you should realize it. And the way to end suffering, you should practice it. And then the last one that he actually said, I've done all these. I've done all these, so I don't have to do them anymore. So that is, in the basis of that. So basically, a person, can say, I think Eric asked me one, was Buddha a Buddhist? Well, no, he wasn't a Buddhist. all that seems to have sort of developed later in that. But basically, it would be the cultivation of suffering, the causes, and its cessation is what would constitute a person who is a Buddhist in a genuine way, and so forth. Okay. Now, I do have a Mary Oliver poem. She titles this, A Meeting. She steps into the dark swamp where the long wait ends. The secret, slippery package drops to the weeds. She leans her long neck and tongues it between breaths, slack with exhaustion. And after a while, it rises and becomes a creature like her, but much smaller. So now there are two, and they walk together like a dream under the trees. In early June, at the edge of a field, thick with pink and yellow flowers, I meet them. I can only stare. She is the most beautiful woman I have ever seen. Her child leaps among the flowers. The blue of the sky falls over me. Like silk, the flowers burn. I want to live my life all over again, to begin again, to be utterly wild the way it really is.
Mm.